let's get to the checkup. What do you say?
Give it to us.
Let's check the audiences up. Kevin Feige confirms that Charlie Cox will be the MCU's Daredevil moving forward. Feige said, quote, if you were to see Daredevil in upcoming things in the MCU, Charlie Cox, yes, would be the actor playing Daredevil. Where we see that, how we see that, when we see that, remains to be seen. Let's go, Charlie Cox, end quote. That wasn't part of it. Next, a Shang Chi sequel is in the works with Destin Daniel Cretton set to return to direct. Cretton is also developing a new MCU series for Disney Plus. More Shang-Chi for Cretton. Next, Tom Holland confirms he's playing Fred Astaire in a biopic for Sony. Sony loves them some Tom Holland. Astaire was an American actor, dancer, singer, choreographer, and television presenter. He's widely considered the greatest dancer in film history. Next, Brad Pitt is set to star in an untitled F1 racing film with Joseph Kosinski set to direct. British F1 driver Lewis Hamilton is also involved in the film. Disney, Apple, Netflix, Amazon, Paramount, MGM, Sony, and Universal are all in a bidding war for the rights. Jeez Louise. Next, Ana de Armas will replace Scarlett Johansson and will star alongside Chris Evans in Ghosted, a high-concept romantic comedy adventure film for Apple TV+. Sounds like a win-win for Chris Evans. Next, a CGI monkey has been cast as Robbie Williams for his biopic Better Man, which begins filming in early 2022 in Australia. Do I know who Robbie Williams is? No, but there's a monkey playing this dude. Next, Tom Hardy will return as Alfie Solomons in the final season of Peaky Blinders. It's just an outrageous turn of events from that show. The fact that we're getting more Tom Hardy. Next, Batgirl starring Leslie Grace, J.K. Simmons, and Brendan Fraser has begun filming. It was just Brendan Fraser's birthday. Happy birthday, plump boy, Brendan Fraser. Next, Nicolas Cage has been cast as Dracula in Chris McKay's Renfield. Renfield will be played by Nicholas Hoult, Dracula's famous assistant from The Tall Tales. Next, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II has started his own production company, House 1110, and he's inked a creative partnership with Netflix to star and produce films for the streamer. We still won't forgive him for backing out of Furiosa. Next, the Steven Spielberg biopic, The Fabelmans, will release in November 2022. The film is based loosely on the director's childhood, and it's going to be directed by Spielberg himself and stars Seth Rogen, Michelle Williams, and Paul Dano. Next, Kari Skoglund will replace Patty Jenkins as director of Cleopatra, starring Gal Gadot. Patty Jenkins will instead produce the film so she can focus on Wonder Woman 3 and Rogue Squadron. Skoglund is best known as a director with The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Next, oh my God, Colin Farrell is officially signed on for the Batman spinoff show, HBO series, called The Penguin. Lastly, Dave Bautista is in talks to star in M. Night Shyamalan's next film, Knock at the Cabin. That does it for the checkup this week. I'm out of breath. Ricky Flex, which headline do you want to start with?
Tom Holland is going to continue his dancing career. Fred Astaire, obviously, you think of the Tower of the Inferno with Paul Newman and Steve McQueen, but before Fred Astaire, obviously, you mentioned dancing icon. So Tom Holland's going to put on his dancing shoes again, like he did in that lip sync karaoke or whatever. Looking forward to this one and into his post Spider-Man or just non-Spider-Man career. Let's see what he does.
This is exciting. So he was up for the role of Willy Wonka. He lost it to Timothée Chalamet. So that we were anticipating, when we see those clips from production of Willy Wonka where Chalamet's singing and dancing, right? Where you're like, oh, Thomas Holland would be really good at this. He has that background in theater. We've seen what he did on that karaoke show with LL Cool J when he was impersonating Rihanna. Like, he's spectacular. He knows how to dance. He's one of the most athletic dudes, and he has the very similar frame to Fred Astaire himself. All right. So Fred Astaire had a very unique look to his face and everything like that. I wouldn't say he looked like the average person. Like, he had a very defining look. So Tom Holland, his body though is, I would say, slender type of figure that matches. And it's definitely, if I had to pick out of a row of actors who could play Fred Astaire, it would be Tom Holland. So I'm excited for that. And like we kind of talked about this last week, what is Tom Holland going to do? Is he going to keep playing? We know he's probably going to be Spider-Man for another 3 movies, another trilogy, a college trilogy for Sony. He's going to be Uncharted. He's going to be in Uncharted, right? The video game adaptation with Mark Wahlberg. Let's see him get something more grounded. Okay. Maybe something that has more appeal in terms of maybe going to bolster that IMDb page rather than just stacking up box office numbers. Am I right?
Yeah, you're right. And when I think of Fred Astaire, the first thing I actually think of, speaking of Christmas season, is Santa Claus is coming to town. He's the narrator.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yes.
So I literally just watched that the other night, and I remember seeing his name. So this is kind of weird that we got this news today. But no, I'm excited to see Tom Holland in non-superhero things, as we've always been saying, but also getting back into the dancing. And I don't know, like every time I think of like a Fred Astaire, I'm thinking like Charlie Chaplin, as in not because of the comedy, but because of the dancing. And Robert Downey Jr., that's how he got his early Oscar nom.
Wow,
Maybe
parallel.
Tom Holland could do the same thing here. I don't know.
Interesting. We just naturally connect those two, the two longest lasting, most appearances in the MCU, and then also just like
Mentor,
their
mentee
connection. Yeah, mentor, mentee in those movies. That's an interesting comparison you just made. I like that. I want to say I looked up the Wikipedia for Fred Astaire. Like, he just was really successful. I didn't really see a lot of like obstacles that he had to go through in his life. I was looking for that. I didn't know if he had any personal things going on. Maybe there's something that is to be revealed that I didn't know, but it just seems like it's just Tom Holland's going to be having fun playing this dude. Like, I didn't see anything.
Yeah, I did the same kind of deep dive, and I didn't really see anything. Like, he died of pneumonia when he was 88, so like no tragic death or anything like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. He was a great dancer. Maybe he was a ladies' man, so he's going to get some trouble there, maybe. Or maybe it's like a romantic movie, or then not just about his career, but romantic, similar to like I don't know, like a June Carter, Johnny Cash type thing, and Walk the Line. I'm not sure, but I don't know. I again, you didn't see any. There's no tragic death. There wasn't anything. Headline news from Fred Astaire. It seemed like a good celebrity.
Yeah, just seemed like a good guy. I didn't know if he like went through anything. It's just like, no, he actually just lived a long, happy life and was an amazing dancer. Tom Holland's like, yeah, I'd love to play that dude. Who wouldn't, you know?
Right.
Ricky Flex, let's move on to something else. We'll jump into superhero movie stuff in a sec, but like, hey, dude, we got to talk about Nick Cage. Like, what casting here?
Yes,
right?
sir.
So we've had Nick Cage, like, I think a couple of weeks ago, he said he's never going to retire from acting. A couple of weeks later, we hear he's playing Dracula. I mean, that is perfect. I wish he was like going to be Dracula in the Monsters universe for Universal. That would have been incredible.
That was my first thought. I thought
that would have been incredible.
I honestly thought that was it, because Chloe Zhao's doing the Dracula, right, in that monster universe.
Something she's doing something. I think it is Dracula.
Yeah. So I thought when I saw Nick Cage playing Dracula, that's all I saw, and I immediately thought it was with Chloe Zhao, and I was just like, I was getting the tweet ready. Oscar incoming. Here we go.
No, but I saw that Nicholas Hoult was in that movie, and he kind of lines up. He's the same type of semi-young, like a Ryan Gosling is playing the Wolfman. Elizabeth Moss in The Invisible Man from a couple of years ago. Like Nicholas Hoult, if he was a star of this movie, and then you had Nick Cage as like the Dracula, I could see that fitting into this universe somehow. And I think that like Nick Cage just has that unique look to him, that long face to him. He does something with his teeth. It might be what he did in Ghost Rider when he just clutches them together and he sticks them out. He just looks like a psychopath, and his eyes go wide. Like I saw the side by side that Disgusting Film posted between him and like a picture of like 1930s Dracula. I'm like, I mean, there's no one else they could have picked. And no one else. Nicolas
Cage is the guy. And just going off of the Nicolas Cage to Nicholas Hoult. Good for him. He's been not in the headlines. Like, yeah, sure. He was in Those Who Wish Me Dead with
Lost out in the Batman.
Lost out on the Batman. So he's kind of been not forgotten, but just not in the headlines. And he's had great success with The Great on Hulu. I still haven't watched it. I'm not really interested, but that seems to have helped him. But he had to go to TV. He had to go to series. So this is like, all right, I'm next to Nick Cage, who might get nominated for an Oscar this year. People forget it just came out early for Pig. I don't think so, but you never know. But teaming up with him in not a superhero, but like a monster, big box office type movie, this could be the next step in his career to get back to relevancy.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like the Nicholas Hoult take, like he still is super young. I think like it's those castings where it's like, oh, I just missed out on the Batman. Usually they pan out. Like a couple of years later, they're gonna get the next big role. This is a huge role, like Renfield and like a vampire movie alongside Nicolas Cage. And when Nicholas Hoult is the leading man, that's a big deal. Yeah, especially after this like resurgence of Nicolas Cage. What were we gonna say?
No, and it's funny that you mentioned because he lost out on the Batman, and then you said like when people miss out on the Batman, they actually end up doing great things. And you know, it's another franchise that that needs a new headliner. It's James Bond, and
He would be a good James Bond,
and
bro.
people they want a younger James Bond. He's English. What is he like? He's like 30. He's like around 30. So he would be a natural fit. So maybe this would be like the next step to get back to do something like that. So
he's 32. He'd be a great James Bond.
So I'm just throwing that one out there. I'm still Dev Patel's my guy, but he would be a good one too.
Big time. Where else are we gonna go, Ricky Flicks here? So Brad Pitt, F1 movie. It seems like these racing films are starting to catch on a little bit. We had Rush a few years back with Ron Howard and obviously Chris Hemsworth, Daniel Bruhl. We had Ford versus Ferrari with Damon, Bale, and James Mangold. And now we're getting Brad Pitt for a movie that he's been trying to make, except for like, I would say 10 years now. So this is, I'm very excited to see it. I anticipate he's not going to have a role of a driver, although I wouldn't put it past him where he's like a rock star level type of driver with the blonde hair to get rid of a couple of those wrinkles, couple of Botox shots, boom, boom. And then he's in the car.
No, and like you mentioned Rush, right? That's 2011, 2012 movie with Chris Hemsworth. Like you're just thinking the parallels between Brad Pitt and Chris Hemsworth. You just think Brad Pitt could have done amazing in that role as well.
You're playing older James Hunt.
Right. Like you think like, wow, he could have done that, but he's going to do this. And during a time where F1 now is gaining more traction in bigger markets, such as in the United States and North America. It is huge right now because of the Drive to Survive on Netflix, Senna, that documentary on Netflix. And just now F1 is on ESPN now. It's bigger. So this movie is going to be bigger than Rush was, even though I'm not going to say it's going to be better. I do think Josh Kosinski, he is like a name that's been popping up recently a lot. And it's because Top Gun Maverick, Escape from Spiderhead, like he's been in the news and things that we've been covering on this podcast. So now this is just the next one that is going to be a big blockbuster for him. So him teaming up with Brad Pitt, like it just seems natural.
And it seems like with those movies, there's always a second person in the movie. Like we talk about Matt Damon and Christian Bale. Then we talked about Daniel Bruhl with Chris Hemsworth. Like who is going to be in this movie alongside Brad Pitt, you know? And maybe we'll get that Leo magic again somehow from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Put the two back together, dynamic duo. I don't think you could top it. I'm just saying it's fun to dream. I also want to talk about, I like how we're going away from superhero stuff right now. This is good conversation, especially with the kind of review we have today. But Ghosted, this movie, Apple TV, seems like they are figured out how to garner talent, right? So this one we have Chris Evans instead of ScarJo. We have Ana de Armas. We've had Tom Hanks pretty much make Apple TV his home. We have Killers of the Flower Moon with Martin Scorsese, De Niro, and DiCaprio. So it seems like they're getting this talent. This seems like they're about to make a push, right? It seems like they're about to make a push.
Without where it's like doubt.
Those jokes of Apple TV, like it's on Apple TV, I won't watch it. I think that's coming to an end. I really think their problem is that their shows suck. If their shows were good, I think more people would like actually have subscriptions rather than a movie, you know? People are like, I'll figure out a way to see it. I'll see it with a friend. If you actually have established shows, right? People continue to come to the service and like they feel like the movies. They'll be like, okay, maybe I'll get the free 30 days. I'll watch a couple movies and then I'm out. You know what I mean?
So I'm going to say something. Ted Lasso has saved Apple TV Plus.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Good point.
Ted Lasso has saved Apple TV Plus because before Ted Lasso, the subscribers for them were just so low. It just seemed like they would never be able to catch up to a Netflix or a Disney Plus, who have over 200 million subs. So it's amazing what they're doing. It's costing them a lot of money. I'm sure. I wish we could see some numbers about how much they're paying Scorsese or a Jonah Hill for the Grateful Dead movie. You didn't even mention that one.
Oh yeah.
Or, like they actually are making a push for the Oscars too this season with Swan Song with Marshall Ali and Glenn Close. So that's like, I don't think that's going to do anything, but that might just be the start of, all right, we're getting the talent and we're actually making good movies. Like I didn't watch the Tom Hanks Greyhound or the Tom Hanks starts with the F, thank you, that robot movie, but that's not those aren't touching Oscars. But Marshall Ali, Glenn Close, maybe, and then you got Scorsese coming, and you got it, and more that you mentioned. So, but that wouldn't have started without Ted Lasso, a show that gets people to actually subscribe. So that was big for them. Cherry, we also forgot Cherry, that bombed earlier this year. But
they've had a bunch of shows that have failed. Like they've had the morning show, who it's like we have Carell, Reese Witherspoon, Aniston, like massive names in the history of TV coming together, right? And then it fails. Like it's like it really just it isn't drawing subs like you're talking about. You have Jason Momoa, one of the most bankable stars in Hollywood, having this show that no one cares about named C, and he keeps promoting it. I see on his Instagram, like, dude, no one is seeing this. There's no way. So it's just crazy. So it's just you need to somehow. I think they're gaining talent, and like they have Scorsese to direct movies. You got to get some showrunners, bro. That's where these streaming services make money.
Well, that's how Netflix did it, right? Fincher, House of Cards, like that.
Mindhunter,
right? And Mindhunter. But like I'm thinking like early Netflix, like when Netflix was just trying to make a push to say stream before streaming was really big. When there was still like it was right before they stopped sending the actual movies over mail. Like right when they switched to just doing streaming, that's when House of Cards came and everyone went to that. And it's like, wow, Netflix is incredible. Mm-hmm. Apple TV Plus was struggling, but then they got Ted Lasso, and Ted Lasso ended up being a cult phenomenon, not just this first season, but now even more so in the second season with the award accolades. So that's huge for them. It basically arguably saved them. And now they're spending the money, getting the talent. And again, they just need to get some showrunners. They got Scorsese working on movies, but shows will drive the subs. They need more shows and more successful shows, not just talent. So you need the showrunners, like you mentioned. Good point.
Yeah, it certainly won't hurt though when you have Ana de Armas starring in a movie with Chris Evans. That's like the two of the best looking people on planet Earth.
Incredible.
Anything else? So Ricky, do you want to jump in? You want to talk a little bit about some Marvel stuff? We got Kevin Feige confirming Charlie Cox is going to be the MCU's Daredevil moving forward. What was your reaction to this news? Are you excited for the future? And do you think we're going to see him in Hawkeye?
So this is what I thought you were going to say for the quote, the quote of the day or episode. I thought this was the obvious one. So when you said the Alfred Molina one, I was shocked, but I still love that quote. But obviously, who isn't thrilled with this? You got the release stills of Charlie Cox, and you got No Way Home coming out. And you had to say this before tomorrow. You're listening to this on Tuesday. Wednesday, Hawkeye, episode 4. Daredevil relevance there, most likely happening. So you had to say it now. So then you get the surprise for Hawkeye coming up, building up the hype for Hawkeye and building up the hype for No Way Home. Feige, he knows what he's doing. He's a master puppeteer, impressive display. Go Charlie Cox, go.
I don't think he's going to be in Hawkeye, but I like Kingpin is obviously going to be.
Okay, that's what I was referring to. I didn't want to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, everyone knows. Everyone knows.
And like Vincent D'Onofrio quote tweeted like the comicbooknow.com like tweet that said like he's returning, and he said like Charlie Cox is a wonderful actor and a great man. And, you know, Vincent D'Onofrio on Twitter is kind of like weird. He's like really formal, and he's like, oh, I would love to return to such an iconic part and like stuff like that. I just feel like he has this voice when he's tweeting like the entire time. Like he doesn't tweet like a normal person. It's just like, okay, yeah, we get it. You're a thespian.
It's like Magic Johnson.
Yeah. He's like, it is like that, but it's like, you know, it's like being a formal analyst, but he's like, I'm just a thespian, so I have to speak in this manner. I would love to have such a part with such depth again. He's talking about Kingpin, bro. You just need to like go wear a white suit and just like pretend to like punch people and put your fist through Charlie Cox's head. Like, it's all we want to see. Right. So I'm excited to actually have those two return. It makes me wonder, does this open a door? Because even if Charlie Cox did not show up in, let's say, Spider-Man No Way Home or Hawkeye, they're committing to him in the future. Does that mean like John Bernthal, is he coming back as Punisher eventually too? Because John Bernthal did have a quote earlier where he said he's not going to return to the MCU as Punisher if it's like PG-13 and it's not as hardcore as the show. What do you think about that? Do you think he eventually makes his way back?
Similar to Alfred Molina, money talks, right? So I think he does. And especially with Charlie Cox and D'Onofrio already coming back, I think it's inevitable that you get the only other piece of Marvel property from Netflix, like one of those shows that were successful. I think you have to do it. And that's like the last piece of the puzzle, the last question mark that you can complete. So I think they end up doing it. Especially because John Bernthal is fantastic. He is such a good actor, and Marvel has been attracting these great actors. If John Bernthal gets added to the list to be regarded in the same breath as all these other great actors coming into comic book movies, I think he'll be more open to it now, not just for the money reasons, but also because of just the Hollywood practice right now.
So Wolverine, excuse me, Punisher is not Wolverine, right? But can you imagine like a John Bernthal's Punisher alongside Deadpool in a movie? Can you imagine that?
He would be
it's
good.
Like almost it's gonna be a similar.
It's like too similar to
dynamic.
Josh Brolin. Josh Brolin's he would have been a good Cable. John Bernthal would have been a good Cable.
Yes, but he's also a decent Punisher. I know he doesn't really have the size and the girth of like a one you would like picture from the comics, but I'm just saying to have that someone to go against. I guess like if you didn't bring back Cable somehow, maybe Brolin can't do it, or they don't want to bring back Brolin in a role that's not Thanos. Like you put him alongside like Punisher, because I can see a world where MCU is like, yeah, we don't want to bring back such a recognizable face. Yes, we know it's purple, but such a recognizable face back to the MCU because he's so connected to that part. I can't believe, like when everyone knew a Disney purchase of Fox was very possible, like when Deadpool 2 came out and when it was like starting production. Yeah. I was just like, I was thinking in my head, like, if there's a chance like that this crosses over, like it could cause issues. Like I was kind of shocked that they actually just followed through with it. Maybe they didn't think it was going to happen. Who knows?
Yeah, and they did confirm that Deadpool 3 will happen and will be rated R. They did confirm that as well. So that does possibly leave the door open to maybe bring in a Punisher rated R Punisher into the mix. But it's kind of hard because Deadpool was just so successful that they kind of had to continue doing what they're doing. Don't like break a broken, or don't, whatever the saying is, by not breaking a broken record or something. I don't know what it is, but
don't fix what ain't broke.
Exactly. You know? Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, but it's just like it's a way that he could have kept like the edge to his character. He could keep that R rating, that violence to him, that intensity. If it's like he could play that, and then like Ryan Reynolds could do his thing. But who knows when that movie's actually going to happen? Because I know Ryan Reynolds is taking a break from acting because he's been doing so much of this blockbuster stuff. I want to talk about really quick, Ricky Flex, as we're wrapping up. We actually talked about Colin Farrell playing the Penguin before. We've discussed that, how we're getting a Gotham City Police Department show. Now we have the Penguin getting his own series. He's been, I believe Colin Farrell said in an interview, he only has about 10 minutes of screen time in the Batman in total. So I kind of love that we're getting this series, but as a conversation, we've kind of like reiterated and it's just kind of regurgitating the same ideas, but are we okay with getting like 2-3 different series, right, confirmed before the Batman actually releases in theaters, because it's coming faster than you think?
It's tough because obviously you rather see the movie first and hear about everything else. It gives you hope for the Batman, as in like arguably the greatest trailer of all time, or the greatest two we've seen. So we already had high hopes for this, or high expectations. And now like, they're already planning spin-off shows. I just hope they're not like getting too ahead of themselves. But what I'm thinking is that this movie's a banger, absolute banger. And these spinoff shows are happening because it's a banger. They wouldn't have greenlit these spinoff shows so immediately if they didn't know the Batman was going to be a huge success, not just the like box office wise, but also like critically.
But if you keep scheduling these different shows with these characters, it sets a very unrealistically high bar for the movie, where it's like, okay, we're getting a Penguin
it's already
show.
There. The bar is already too high.
I know, but I'm saying like if you're getting a Penguin show, those 10 minutes of Penguin better be phenomenal, because it's like, okay, this guy's deserving of a show. Okay, let's see it. Or it's like Gotham City Police Department, like, yes, like they've showed us how Gotham looks and it looks incredible, but like how invested are we going to be with the police department as opposed to Batman and these villains? Like I'm gonna be like, yes, I want a show about these cops. You know, it's like I don't want CSI, I don't want whatever. Right. I don't want any of these CBS shows.
It's not TV. It's HBO.
Yes, I know it's HBO, but like I'm just saying, like you're setting it so it's like I need to love every part of this movie because I'm gonna see a crap ton more of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep seeing it, so I have to like it the first time.
And you're gonna see 2 more Batman movies at the minimum, like to do a trilogy. So you're also gonna get 2 more movies after this movie. So yeah, you gotta like it. But I think just taking a step back here and looking at Colin Farrell, just what a weird 10 years or 5 years really for him.
Roller coaster.
Like if we just like go back to like your one of your movies, Killing of a Sacred Deer, unrewatchable.
Unrewatchable.
That's 2017, right? So you have that. You got Widows as a supporting role. You got Dumbo in 2019, flop. The Gentleman, and he was like a very minor character in that. Artemis Fowl.
I forgot who was
atrocious, and he was Artemis Fowl Sr. And then he did like another A24 after
Lobster.
Yang. He did Lobster earlier, but
yeah, I know. I'm just thinking of like that's when he was like kind of killing it. It was like he had obviously in Bruges in like mid 2000s, like he is like literally one of the like the brightest stars in Hollywood. And then like 2010 comes on, he does like The Lobster, and then we talked about Killing of a Sacred Deer. He did the remake, The Total Recall. Remember that?
Yeah, it's just
like, yeah, go ahead.
It's just interesting where his career is gone because like. Sure, he's doing this and like now he has something like formidable and like a namesake, but it's still TV, like it's still a series. It's not a movie. And yes, he is going to be in a movie with Viggo Mortensen and Joel Edgerton, and Ron Howard's directing it. So like that 13 Lives, and that comes out next year. So that has good potential there. And then you also have the Barry Keoghan movie he's doing. So it's like we talked about it on the pod once before. He's reuniting with Barry Keoghan for a movie. So I don't know when that's coming out though. I don't think that has a release date yet, and I don't know the name of it. But it's just like up and down, up and down. Like I just don't know where his career is going. It's very weird. It's just hit or miss, 50-50 shot. It's going to be like one of the best actors in Hollywood or just playing Artemis Fowl Sr.
I trust it because like Matt Reeves, obviously he has a vision and we've seen what he's been able to do in these trailers, whatever. But Ricky Flex, you got to stop hating on TV so much. Times are different. Times have changed, bro. You like, it's not like, oh, he's gone to TV. He can't get a movie. Dude, anyone can get a movie now. Anyone. Have you seen the crap that Netflix puts out? Have you seen this Apple TV, these movies they put out? Anyone can get a movie. It's just a different form of storytelling where you can actually go more in depth, like with a storyline, multiple storylines, different characters, right? And you can just go so much deeper than a movie or a trilogy with these series. That's like, it's like you got like Oscar Isaac is doing a freaking superhero show. Oscar Isaac, huge. Like you think that's bad? That's bad. That looks incredible. The quality of that show looks like it's on par with anything Shang-Chi did.
Shang-Chi, that was also in the checkup.
Black Widow. What would you rather see? I'd rather see a Moon Knight series than Black Widow 2.
Of course, but that's not. Of course, but that's still like I'd rather see a Moon Knight movie.
Yeah, but it's a limited series. It's like it's a different form. It's not as big of a name in terms of Moon Knight. So it's like, okay, well, we had a huge name like Oscar Isaac. Let's put him in a series. And these series, everyone watches these series. Talk about like what drives these streaming services. This is like the alternate to movie theaters. And like it seems like obviously Disney and like MCU, like they're trying to dominate both, you know, and they kind of are.
Oh, they are. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I just think it's like it's not, it shouldn't be looked on as it was like 20 years ago. It's a total different.
But he's not joining because it's a TV series. He's joining because it's like he couldn't get a Moon Knight movie, so he's doing a Moon Knight TV series. And
Ethan Hawke is in it. Ethan Hawke is in it.
He's also going to be in that Blumhouse movie next January that looks like complete
Ethan
crap.
Hawke. He's the Academy Award-winning actor.
I know. I love Ethan Hawke.
He's incredible.
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
No, it's not the same. I got to think of other like series that are coming out with like major stars. I don't know. Whatever. Okay.
Whatever.
No, I just think it's not the same. That's going to do it for the checkup this week. Let's move on to our trailer roundup. We're only going to go over one trailer, and it was the trailer from the weekend. Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse Part 1 has arrived. The trailer, I should say. Miles Morales is back. Haley Steinfeld as Spider-Gwen is back. We got Spider-Man 2099. Speak of the devil, Oscar Isaac playing Spider-Man 2099. Man, this looks, I mean, I don't want to say anything. I want to hear your thoughts first. Ricky Flex, what was your instant reaction?
First, yeah, that was weird. As in, just like the drawings of Spider-Gwen, and then she sees it. I was cringing myself. Yeah, that was shout out to
I mean, just like Amazing Spider-Man when he has like the pictures of Gwen Stacy on his freaking wall. I was like, that was weirder. That was so much weirder. That was my least favorite moment since like Tobey Maguire is doing the dance in Spider-Man 3. Those are the two cringiest scenes in the history of Spider-Man. Oh my God.
But besides that, that was pretty sick. Like the actual web slinging and going through the universes was sick. It will be interesting. It will be interesting to see how did she get back to the how did she travel through the universe to get back to Miles Morales, and then what's going to happen. This is only part one, so this is probably going to leave us on a crazy cliffhanger. Maybe a Kingpin return. I don't know. I'm looking forward to it.
So part one has me super pumped because we have to go to a grand scale where it's where are we bringing back characters? Are we just focusing on introducing new ones? This kind of presents an opportunity. Maybe part one, you bring in these new characters and then he's on a journey with Spider-Gwen. And then like you could have all these different iterations that like they want to bring into the universe, like Scarlet Spider, right? Like Ben Reilly in like the comic books. Or you could go to these different routes, like Asian Spider-Man. I hope that's like the culturally appropriate thing to say. And then maybe in the part two, it's like almost like the Avengers Endgame route where it's like everyone comes back together as they take on this type this type of villain. I think Spider-Man 2099 is not a villain. I think he's going to be an ally, right? Like he's not a villain, is he?
It looked like villain, but I think he will turn into an ally. Like it's going to be one of those like when they first meet their foes, but then they realize, oh, we're not foes. We have the same villain. And then they realize they're not villains. And then part two is going to happen. And then they're going to go at it together maybe.
And I do think like what was so incredible about the first one, yes, the concept looked incredible. The artwork, it was like putting you inside of a comic book, right? And he brought back the music for this trailer with Sunflower, banger. But the detail as I was watching like the trailer here, it's incredible. If you just look at his hair, right? He looks like he's aged a little bit. He's in college now. He has his own dorm, but like the defining curls with the animation, it looks unreal. Like
the animation is.
It looks, I saw a side by side with the original movie. I'm like, oh my God, it got better. Somehow the animation got even better. And the hype around Miles Morales is so high right now, following Into the Spiderverse and then following the Spider-Man video game now that he is starring in. He is the guy. I mean, it's only a matter of time before we see him in like maybe getting teased in Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah, it's sooner than later. He's going to get a live action movie. It's sooner than later. I don't know if they're going to wait until after this.
You got to wait, right?
Like I would wait, let this train just keep rolling, win every single Oscar for animated movie, maybe even get nominated for Best Picture for one of these. That would be pretty remarkable.
You can't like if you make a live action one, you're cucking the animated trilogy.
Right.
Or animated franchise. Like you can't, that's like disrespecting what they've done. That's why I don't think there will be a Miles Morales movie until they've made this part one, part two, and then they see what they want to do with it. Maybe when they're comfortable doing a spinoff, maybe a Spider-Gwen spinoff or something like that. That's when you start to have the live action, but you can't introduce it yet because it's totally going to steal the spotlight from everything that Phil Lord and Chris Miller did. That would make me beyond upset.
No, I agree.
And I don't know much about like the actual Miles Morales comic book. I'm obviously grew up watching Peter Parker. Miles Morales wasn't even created yet by the comic book faithful, by these artists and authors. But I don't like even know who the bad guys would be. I don't know if it's not Spider-Man 2099 and like they've already had different iterations of these Spider-Man villains. Maybe they're just going to do different iterations like they did with Dr. Octopus being a woman. Maybe it's like Green Goblin, who literally was a monster of some sort. I'm just curious of what they're going to put together as like adversaries for him in the film, you know?
Yeah. We'll have to wait and see.
That's all I got. All right. That's going to do it for the trailer roundup this week.